This is Chris report, and he assured me that St. Simon's down in Boulders. Folks, this is Chris Wyatt reporting from South Africa. Good morning, folks, and welcome back to Chris Wyatt Reports. This is Chris live in central Pennsylvania with an update on the United Kingdom's general election results. Talk about skewed results. The Tories were shellacked, absolutely crushed in this election, but that doesn't tell even a portion of the story. The Tories lost almost none of their votes, yet they are destroyed in Parliament. Labour, who gained virtually nothing with a small portion of the vote, now has about 30% of the vote, has 60% of the seats in Parliament in an overwhelming victory. And change starts now. This is the death of the United Kingdom, and it's brought about by the feckless performance of the Tories, who've now delivered the country to the abyss. The leftists, who couldn't get it done under Jeremy Corbyn in a historic defeat in 2017, now come on top with an epic win. What can we say? We can just say flat out that the Labour Party has won big. But they didn't win big on votes, folks. Let's take a look at the vote total. I'll show you how skewed these results are. It shows you just how close things are. The Tories did get the plurality of votes, but barely. And the Reform Party got over 4 million votes, but only gets 4 seats in Parliament. What a corrupt system this really is. It shows you just how misleading the vote totals can be. A party with just 30% of the vote, a la the ANC in Gauteng, gets to be the kingmaker and the ruler of everything. This will skew the outcomes and cause massive problems. I expect to see capital flight from the United Kingdom to the United States and elsewhere, to the Channel Islands and elsewhere, as things come out of this. But let's take a look at what the vote total was here, folks. All right, so this is a table with the actual vote from the election. Labour was the big winner, 9,712,011 votes for 412 seats. They gained over 100% seats. They gained 214 seats, but they have 34% of the vote, and that's slightly higher, 1.7. The Conservative Party lost about 20% of its voters, but they're crushed. They lost 251 seats in an epic destruction, yet still garnered nearly 7 million votes. The Liberal Democrats did quite well. They gained 63 seats. They are a significant actor now, the third largest party. And the Scottish National Party was obliterated. They lost 37 seats in this. Despite the fact that the Scottish National Party lost just 1% of the vote, they lost 37 seats. That's just so messed up. By the way, the Liberal Democrats gained almost no votes. They gained 0.6% more votes, yet gained 63 seats. They had just 8 prior to this. They gained 63 seats. That's insane. That's absolutely insane. And then the Reform Party, looking down here, the Reform Party and Green Party must feel the most aggrieved here. Both have just 4 seats. Reform Party gets its first seats in Parliament, 4. The Green Party goes from 1 to 4 seats, but the Reform Party had 4,091,000 votes, more votes than the Liberal Democrats by over 500,000 more votes. They get 4 seats and Liberal Democrats get 63. How is that a fair system, even remotely, folks? What a bizarre parliamentary system it is indeed. The Liberal Democrats got 500,000 votes less than the Reform Party candidates got, yet they get 63 seats in Parliament. Well, they gained 63. They gained 63. What was the total there? So they gained 63. So they have 71 now. 71 to 4. They had 500,000 fewer votes than Nigel Farage's Reform Party, yet they have 71 seats, 67 seats more. Absolutely backcrap, crazy, insane. Doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Here are your totals right there, folks. Labour under Keir Starmer, boy, that guy sounds like a Norwegian, not a Brit. Keir Starmer with 412 seats in Parliament. Labour gains 214. Liberal Democrats jump significantly with 63 seats. The Scottish National Party loses 37, and the Conservative Party lost 251 seats. They lost more than twice as many seats as they retained. Liz Truss is bounced on her ear with good riddance to her. Rishi Sunak, unbelievable. This is a disaster of epic proportions, but we knew it was coming. This is not exactly a surprise, folks. Not exactly a surprise. Unbelievable. So let's take a look at, this is the map. You want to talk about a confusing map? That is the map of the results. Wow. All over the place. The only thing that makes sense there is the odd green color in Northern Ireland, which is Sinn Féin. Sinn Féin has now become the largest party in Northern Ireland's parliament as well. Crazy. The Conservatives show up in blue on this map, and you can see that they've just been destroyed here. Labour with huge constituencies in the borderlands between Scotland and England, as well as the Midlands. But of course, the Anglo side of England retains a conservative bent in the south and in the east and along the east coast of England, down in the middle of the country. But wow, this is an epic shellacking for the Tories. This is another feckless leader, another useless leader. Why the Tories thought that elevating this gentleman, who India got all excited about, look, a South Asian, we've conquered the British Empire. Well, the British Empire has been conquered from within. Unbelievable. So I showed you that one already. This is the one I want to show you. This is what the map looks like. The map on the right is 2017. The blue is Conservative. The red is Labour. You can see it 2017. Conservatives were solid, but even better in 2019. And you can see the Scottish National Party, which is in yellow, was strong in 2017, stronger in 2019, and now they're almost non-existent in 2024. You can see that Labour has just picked up seat after seat after seat after seat. These are very skewed outcomes, with Labour having virtually all of Wales and all of the Midlands and all of Scotland. Gee, many crickets. This is unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. Well, man, I'll tell you, this it's a landslide victory for Labour, but it's a fragile landslide, as CNN has described it. Labour's huge but fragile landslide. They say Labour's victory was seismic, and it was. It was very nearly unprecedented. Only Tony Blair has ever won more seats in an election for the Labour Party. Keir Starmer's party only increased its vote share by a few percentage points from its dismal 2019 showing, even though it may end up with almost twice as many seats. Well, it ends up with more than twice as many seats. Starmer won a smaller vote share than his predecessor, Jeremy Corbyn, back in 2017, an election that Labour also got shellacked in. Yep. Wow. Seat after seat, a strong showing from Reform tore into votes from the Conservatives. And that's why the Conservatives got shellacked, because the Reform Party, who only managed 4 seats, they destroyed the Conservatives. That's exactly what this is. That's the lesson I have to take from this, is that the right split the vote. The right split the vote. So Reform took 4 million votes, and they caused the defeat of the Tories. But the Tories didn't deserve to win, so turnabout's fair play. Now, there are no ways to look at the Conservative performance here. This was just a horrible showing, a terrible campaign, and this is now finding the Tories in opposition, but maybe even irrelevance at this stage. Wow. Senior Conservatives fell like dominoes in seat after seat, says CNN. The party was decimated by Labour and Reform in the so-called red wall swath of battleground seats across North England and Midlands, which is what I just said, and by the Liberal Democrats in the affluent suburbs of southern England that previously controlled by the Tories for decades. And a line of high-profile figures and faces of a 14-year reign of useless power, Penny Mordaunt, Jacob Rees-Mogg, Robert Buckland, Alex Chalk, and others were dumped from power. The outgoing Chancellor, Jeremy Hunt, barely hung on to his seat in his constituency. In a sign of the potential fragility of Labour's landslide, however, turnout was the lowest in 2 decades. It looks like it's going to be below 60%. 2 seats yet to be decided in the Parliament. This is just an epic loss and a tragic performance for Conservatives. While Conservatives are sweeping to election victories in Hungary, in Sweden, in the Netherlands, in Germany, except that they're being deemed falsely terrorists by a corrupt leftist government. Otherwise, they would be sweeping the victory in Germany as well. In France, they're sweeping the victory. Performances in Italy, off the charts, it's successful in Estonia and elsewhere. In England, the Tories' useless, craven desire for political power has led to an epic defeat. The United Kingdom is stagnating in no small measure because of the wild influx of criminal alien invaders facilitated by these politicians for the past 3 decades, pushing and consigning the English to minority status in their own country. Cities like Leicester, Manchester, Birmingham, and East London are not even English. These are places where you can't even go unless you wear a burqa or a abaya, or you follow Sharia law. This is not England. And this is why this country is falling apart. Now, that's not an attack on Muslim immigrants to the UK. Muslim immigrants to the UK have been coming there for centuries and have been part of the fabric of society in small numbers. But in overwhelming numbers, and entire neighborhoods and districts are turned into no-go zones for law enforcement. This is not immigration. This is not integration. This is invasion. And this is one reason why the United Kingdom is lost. Its economy is stagnant because of state control. Even under the Tories, they notoriously love to control the economy, and they give handouts to people who shouldn't even be there. For instance, I watched a few years back while traveling through the UK, one of their television shows in which they talk about public assistance for people. And this criminal alien invader from Romania who had invaded the United Kingdom and spent some time there was arrested and deported, snuck back into the country yet again, and this time brought his family with his 6 children. As a consequence, he qualified automatically for free housing, while people in the UK have to pay rates, had to pay council taxes, had to pay outrageous value-added tax, and have their incomes siphoned away by a corrupt state who hands out gimmies and gifts to criminal alien invaders like this gentleman from Romania. And so they offered him a house in Hounslow. Hounslow, of course, is the area around the Heathrow International Airport. He didn't like it, was too small, so they offered him a house up in the Midlands. And the house had like 4 bedrooms, and he didn't have to pay a penny for it. If someone had rented, it would have cost him close to £2,000 per month to rent this house. Yet it was being given at taxpayer expense to this criminal alien invader and his 6 offspring, none of whom have any business whatsoever. They were not fleeing political persecution. They're not refugees. They are criminal alien invaders who violated the sovereignty of England. Yet the feckless, useless, turd politicians in the United Kingdom accepted these people and gave them free housing. By the way, he turned that house down. He refused it. £1,900 a month, free rent, and no business, no right to work in the country, living off the dole of other people's sweat and labor who are actually English, their country being invaded from the outside. England has not been successfully invaded since 1066 until 1990. Since 1990, England has been under constant assault and invasion by criminal alien invaders from around the world who are undermining the sovereignty and the ethnic identity of the United Kingdom. It's one thing to be a Brit, it's quite another to be English, and England is falling by the wayside. There will be no homeland for the English when this is all over. They'll simply be mixed in and be a minority in their own homeland, living under the dictates of people who bring an alien culture, and they deserve what they get. America is headed in the same path. The difference in America is that this is not an ethnicity issue, it's a cultural value issue. Being an American is not an ethnicity, it is an adherence to our values, cultures, mores, and norms. In the United Kingdom, things are going sideways very, very fast. In 1990, less than 5 million people in a country of 58 million people were foreign-born or not of UK extraction. Today, that number is astronomically high, and it is a frightening prospect if you're English that you'll have no homeland. Perhaps you can go to the Falkland Islands. That might be the one safe outlet for folks. But ladies and gentlemen, just another quick wrap-up here of what we're talking about. In this election, the Tories just completely destroyed here. You can see the changes in these constituencies from 2017 to 2024. But it's not just the Tories who were destroyed. It's also the Scottish National Party. And the idiotic concept of Scottish independence should be dead on arrival now as the SNP is obliterated. Of course, famously, the SNP, led by a racist who whined about, in Scotland, the judges, the police, the doctors, the social workers, members of the Scottish Parliament, they're all white. Well, yeah, dumbass, it's Scotland, not Nigeria, not Iran, not Afghanistan, not Yemen. It is Scotland. And if you don't like it, get the fuck out. Good Lord. Wow. A man from a group that collectively, all people not Scottish, is less than 2% of the population, moaning that most of the people in government are actually Scots. What an ass. What a total ass. I'm sorry. If I were to go to Karachi and complain that there were no white Americans in charge of anything, I don't think anyone would have any sympathy for me whatsoever. If I were to go to Nigeria and complain that there are no white folks in government, I don't think anybody would have any sympathy for me. And rightly so. It would be asinine to make such a declaration and claim. But the First Minister of Scotland is gone now, thank goodness. So, here we go once again. Here are the vote totals. Labour sweeping to victory, more than doubling its seats, at least 412 seats, with just 9.7 million votes. They gained only about 100,000 votes yet they gained 214 seats in Parliament. Conservatives lost 251 seats at least by losing 19% of the vote. And where did that 19% go? Well, you can bet it went to the Reform Party, which polled 4,091,000 votes, 14% of the vote. They're the third largest party in Parliament by vote total, but they're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, eighth largest party in the country by representation. Now, how is that even remotely just and fair? It's not, but that is the system. That is the system, and that's why politics are so skewed and why they swing so wildly from one direction to the other direction in a single election in the United Kingdom. And this is one reason why the United Kingdom is just so unstable. It isn't just the criminal alien invaders and the feckless policy by politicians and government. It's also the fact that government can be changed on a dime and direction is completely gone. So all the energy and effort put into developing the economy, the infrastructure, all gets turned on its head just like that. And that's what's happening in the United Kingdom. Change starts now, claims Keir Starmer. Is he a Norwegian? What the heck is Keir Starmer? Wow. Yeah, it's Mr. Evil all over again, says Gerald Rafferty. It's crazy. Green Phantom says, if I wasn't in the UK in uni, I would leave. The Tories and Reform beat themselves. Labor didn't have to do a thing. Correct, Fleshin. Correct. They ate each other alive. And that's what's not going to happen in France. We could have had a replay of this in France, and we could have seen Marine Le Pen in charge of the country, but that will not happen in the elections on Sunday. And why? Because the leftists, like the leftists in America, have gotten together and colluded to ensure that they do not lose the elections. How did they do this? Well, in all the races where there's a third candidate from the three parties, two leftist parties and one conservative party that are the main parties, the leftists have colluded in over 200 plus constituencies to remove, or was it 90? Anyway, to remove 90 plus percent of the constituencies. They're removing one of the party's candidates. So they're willingly not going to win that constituency to ensure that the conservatives do not win. This is demonic and it's corrupt, but it is how politicians behave in Europe. And this is why France will not go for Le Pen. It would be great to see that happen, but it's not going to happen because of the corrupt politics of the French Republic. But France has long been a troublesome country as a monarchy, trying to lord over other countries and dominate them throughout Europe with its colonies around the world, particularly in Africa, but also North America. And then, of course, when the French finally got rid of their monarchy with their brutal murder of the aristocracy, they turned on each other and ate each other alive. Then Napoleon came along and had empire and invaded everyone and their brother, and the French have just been useless ever since. They've never accomplished anything. The French actually had the internet before the rest of us did. Did you know that? France had the internet. That's right. Back in the 1980s, France had something called Minitel. Minitel was the internet, but it was useless, it was expensive, and it didn't catch on because it was French. And so France wound up being and also ran in the internet economy when they could have led the world. Typical French. Well, this isn't an effort to beat up on the French. It's an effort to talk about what's going on. So it's just bat crap crazy what has been happening here. Nigel Farage finally gets into Parliament, ladies and gentlemen. His 8th try. I lost an election this year, and people are like, run again. I'm like, probably not. Well, Nigel Farage never gave up, but then other people were footing the bill for Nigel. I was footing my own bill. So Nigel has run yet again, and this time he's in. Nigel Farage will be in Parliament on his 8th attempt. Wow. He'll join the party chair, Richard Tice, former Tory Lee Anderson, and Southampton FC chair, Rupert Lowe, in the House of Commons. Nigel Farage has been elected as an MP for Clacton, finally succeeding getting a seat in Parliament in his 8th attempt. Clacton, of course, is on the east shore of England, an area settled by the Angles and the Utes. The Reform UK leader's victory came on a night when the hardline right-wing party surged in support elsewhere, winning 4 seats. Yep. Farage defeated Conservative candidate Giles Watling, who had represented the coastal constituency since 2017. Farage won 21,225 votes to Watling's 12,820. Pretty big difference, almost 50% of the vote. In a speech after his victory was announced, Farage served notice that his party would be turning its guns on Labour. We're coming for Labour, be in no doubt about that. Reveling in the Conservatives' heavy defeat across the country, Farage railed against the party of which he had once been a member, telling reporters they are literally a broad church that has no shared religion. Ooh, well stated. He told reporters he would speak up and provide challenge to government as to what Tory MPs should do. He said those who are part of the one nation tradition should stay where they are, while others should look to reform and join the team. So they're so split down the middle. They spent the last 4 years fighting each other, so God knows what it'll be like now. There you go. Well, Nigel Farage finds his way into Parliament. So the question is, why did UK go left when the rest of Europe is going right? Well, it didn't really go left. The right ate itself from the inside, as we just mentioned. CNN says, as Europe turns right, why has a center-left party won a landslide in the UK? Well, because it's not really a landslide. It's a constituency landslide, but not an electoral landslide. Over the past month, historic elections have seen countries in Europe fall to conservative governments, and over the past few years. But in the UK, a leftist party wins under Labour. So Keir Starmer thinks that he's got a mandate for change. He sounds like the African National Congress in Gauteng. Oh, did you hear Panyaza Lusufi talking about mandate? Man, dude, you don't have a mandate to go to the bathroom, let alone change anything in Gauteng. But in the UK, Nigel Farage is in with just 4 seats, 4 million votes. That's got to be bizarre. It took 1 million votes to get a seat. That's pretty much how it works out. Chadwick Alexander says, happy Friday. Comments on what good way to spend it listening to my favorite news channel. Well, good to see you again, Chadwick. Thanks for being here. Thank God I don't live in the UK. South Africa's bad, but not as bad, says James Bowie. Conservatives are left wing, they're pro-grain. Yes, did you see the title for this stream? The conservatives, well, actually, I didn't put it on there, but it's on the banner. On the banner I put up. Did you see the banner where I basically said, they've embarrassed the conservative movement. They've been doing it for years. I've had no support in my mind. I thought that under Boris Johnson, briefly, before he actually became prime minister, that the Tories would return to faith, family, and flag, but they did not. They're much more interested in DEI and the climate religion than they are in actually leading a country. And so Boris Johnson turned out to be a huge disappointment. Of course, after he got the Rona, he wasn't the same person. I start to wonder if there's been a body double to replace him, because his mental acuity seemed to have dropped by about 70 points after he got the Rona. Anyway, so there you have it. Anyway, that's the situation. Hey, LL Entertainment, you're laughing, says Green Phantom. Was it something I said? Was it something I said? Yeah, no. So, folks, for those tuning in late, let me just run through these charts again very quickly here before we wrap up. I've got rugby coming up at the top of the next hour, so I'll be getting ready for that. It's kind of warm in my house this morning. It's supposed to be 100 plus degrees today. It's not that way yet. It's early morning here, 8:27 in the morning, and it is 77 degrees Fahrenheit, which is actually quite nice, but that is not going to last. Let's take a look at this again. Here's how it changed from 2017 to 2019 to 2024, but it wasn't just conservatives who took the hit. It was also the Scottish National Party, which was obliterated. Oh, it's what I said about the French. Yeah. So there you go. And here are the numbers. So Sinn Féin in Northern Ireland has 7 seats. They didn't gain anything, but now they're the biggest party because others lost, with just 210,000 votes in Northern Ireland. Scottish National Party, less than 1 million votes, lost 37 seats. A Welsh party played, I never know how to pronounce Welsh for Simru there, gained 2 seats. They have 194,000 votes. Yep. The Ulster Unionist Party gained a seat. They're in government now in Northern Ireland. But the Reform Party, with 4,091,000 votes, gets just 4 seats. The Green Party also must feel cheated, although they're pretty happy. If you look at the photograph of the Green Party celebrating, it's virtually all female. It is an estrogen overload party. Virtually no men in its senior ranks, apparently. Liberal Democrats, big election for them, even though they gained virtually no votes at 3.5 million. They're stagnant, but they gained a lot of seats, 63 seats. Wow, that's crazy. This is a disaster. Can I send the channel for the... Yeah, sure. Let me find that real quick. We'll be covering the Griquas and the Pumas at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard, 3 p.m. South Africa time. Then it's the Sharks and Lions. And then this evening, pretty late for South Africans, it'll be USA hosting Romania in Chicago. Let me see. This one I do. There it is, at Rugby Senate. There we go. At least it shows up. My channel shows up now. That's funny. It didn't used to do that. It used to be when I put at Rugby Center, that wouldn't even show it to me. Good to see that it's there. So maybe YouTube is taking some of the pressure off. By the way, this isn't part of this broadcast, but I will be making a video about Irania because I'm sick and tired of people going on about Irania, and I'm just going to talk about it and about, yeah. So there you go. It's Cymru. Cymru, is that how you say that? Cymru? Cymru? How the hell do you get that out of that? I don't speak Welsh. Fleshin does. Yeah, well, frankly, I wasn't alone. 50 years ago, almost nobody spoke Welsh, less than 10%. About 4% of the population actually spoke Welsh 50 years ago. But hey, that number's changed significantly. Over 30% of Wales' population is now proficient in Welsh. They saved the language from extinction. Manx, unfortunately, died from the Isle of Man. That Celtic language, gone. Cornish, gone a couple of centuries ago. That's a shame. Sad to see languages disappear. There was an incredible strategic vote to get the Tories out, many of whom would have voted reform. 5 unelected PMs in 6 years just doesn't cut it. Yeah, well, the Tories are feckless, and they got what they deserve. So they are wiped out. But there's the link for the Rugby Ascendant. If you'd like to join me over there, I'll be covering the rugby. I do play-by-play and color commentary, and Curry Cup is always entertaining because it's mostly a bunch of unknowns, nobodies, who many of us don't know, especially me. So it should be interesting. But I have a soft spot for the Griquas, and I'll be rooting for them. So that's coming up here shortly. All right, so we went through that. Now let's go through this one here. And you can see just how crazy the map is. There's no clear pattern here. The Conservatives still won a lot of constituencies, but not enough because the densely populated areas are in the borderlands between Scotland and England. You can see all of those tiny little constituencies, and in the Midlands. And then, of course, down around London. And look at the Midlands. You look at there from Liverpool to Manchester to Sheffield, working your way over to Leicester. That whole swath there of tiny little constituencies all went for the Labour Party. Not even remotely surprising. So the less populated areas dominated by Conservatives, rural, and not enough. So they got what they deserved. Good morning, Myra. They got what they deserved. Absolutely. This is a shellacking of epic order, and it's well-deserved. So again, here are the seats. Labour with 412 seats gained 214 with 2 seats yet to be called as of this morning here on the East Coast. That was about an hour and 10 minutes ago. And you need 326 for a majority, so they have a clear majority, and they can do whatever the hell they want in Parliament. This is a bad sign for Britons, for the English in particular, and it is not a good day. Don Leopold, welcome to you. Yeah, Liberal Democrats, despite gaining 0.6% more votes, get 63 additional seats, making them the third largest party. And the Conservative Party, in an epic loss under Rishi Sunak, the tax cheat who hides his money in the Channel Islands, the almost billionaire, lost 251 seats for the Tories. Liz Truss, Boris Johnson, Rishi Sunak, not even anybody remotely inspiring. Why can't they get actual leaders? You know, the Tories would have been smart to get Nigel Farage to come back in their party and to adjust their platform to be conservative. But they're not conservative. It's a name only, the Conservatives. It's a joke. They are not conservative. And they have been conservative for decades. The downfall of the Conservative Party began with the departure of Margaret Thatcher and the ascension of John Major. Who? John who? That's right, John Major. And that led to, unfortunately, a period in which Tony Blair became wildly popular and the UK started down the wrong path. There you go. All right, folks, that's the situation this morning, and the United Kingdom's seismic change there. And the United Kingdom, which insulted the United States by holding their election on our Independence Day, can get stuffed. They can foot sec. The United Kingdom is gone. It's the domain of leftist and criminal alien invaders, and soon to be the domain of Sharia law. So good luck with that. The place that gave us English common law and the Magna Carta, the first constraint on a monarch by constraining the king's rule. Now, it was done for the nobles, but hey, it was a start. The Magna Carta in the year 1215. Yep, 1215. Well, here we are in the year 2024, and the UK has fallen. What was the movie? Olympus is Down? Well, Olympus is down. And it's the fault of politicians who destroyed this country from within. It's a tragedy of epic proportions, and it's a tragedy for English, for Scots, for Irish, for Welsh, for everyone. What a sad, sad day. While they bask in the glory of their epic win, Labour should take note of the fact that they didn't gain votes. They didn't pick up votes. They're not more popular. They won by default. They won big by default. That's how it goes. All right, folks, I'm going to wrap it up here. Thanks for being in. I'll try to do news later today. It just depends how much energy I have after doing 2 broadcasts of rugby games. Coming up on Rugby Ascendant, the link is shared there if you want to go there and become a subscriber. You can also become a member there and support the channel if you like. It makes a little bit of coin, not much. But feel free to join us over there, and I will be covering the Griquas versus the Pumas from the Suzuki Stadium in Kimberley. It's no longer Trafalgar Park. It's now Suzuki Stadium after a big sponsorship deal for them. And then I'll be covering the Sharks versus the Lions, and at least the Sharks will be playing some players we've actually heard of before. There you go. Then later tonight, it's USA hosting Romania in a test match in which many of the key U.S. players are not available and or are injured, and so they won't be there. So we'll see how that goes for the USA. Tomorrow, it's the Cheetahs and the Griffins in a game that should be a huge win for the Cheetahs under the stewardship now of Franz Sten, the legendary Franz Sten. And then there's also the Springboks hosting Ireland at Loftus Versfeld. Looking forward to that tomorrow, folks. Please tune in and join us on Rugby Senate. I'll try to do news where possible. It's going to be difficult. Sunday, it's Province hosting the Bulls at DHL Greenpoint Stadium. Looking forward to that. Thanks, everybody. Be sure to hit the like button. Leave a comment behind if you like. And you can, let's go drown our sorrows for the death of the United Kingdom. Now, that's hyperbole. Why not? Cheers, everybody. Catch you on Rugby Ascendant in about 20 minutes. Cheers.